while we go on, I could also ask you some questions, but maybe if you could give us a little introduction on project management, and like you could just tell us what it actually is. What is project management, so we can know what we are building on.
Yeah, that sounds good. So before I jump into the definition, in fact, I wouldn't want to run into that path of defining what project management is, because we should already know what project management is, and I'm sure pretty much that most of us have done that research. You know, I'll give a very short overview of my career. So my first role was actually in HR. Most people don't know this, that I actually started off as an HR admin person. That was my first job ever. I worked with DHL supply chain in the UK. It was in that environment of working with DHL that I started seeing and noticing the career path of project management. First things first, the DHL career, or the facility I worked on at DHL then, it wasn't the postal service one. It was purely supply chain. So we were doing more of airline catering and food management. So we did that with a company called Northern Foods, very close to London. It's a city called Collinbrook. So that was my first touch, where I started seeing project managers, started seeing people who, these guys just had an aura around them. They had this life, they had this excitement. Everything kind of revolved around this team of people. And we had this open space, open plan office. So I could see them. I was sitting quite behind where they were. So I always saw their level of communication, how everything was revolving around them. And I was like, hey, these guys, I need to know what really they're doing. And I had a chat with one of them called Peter. He's now based in Australia. And Peter gave me an overview and said, hey, well, we're the project managers for this site. Our job is to establish this site, make sure it's running well, make sure that this site is successful. I was like, cool. So he gave me some tips on what they were doing, some insight, and I ran with that. I was like, man, I need to get into this space. This sounds very exciting. One other thing that also got me excited about this career path was that before I went for my master's, I had already started thinking about a role in project management, but I didn't know how to get into it. I applied to some schools and I got rejected for all of them. So I then did a master's in international business. And I was like, well, let me do this and still walk around to get more knowledge. But when I saw those guys in my office then and what they were doing, it gave me more excitement, And I started training myself, started exposing myself to things in that space, So that was what got me into project management, So sometimes you could be asking yourself, how do I transition into this space? Do I need to go to school to learn about project management? Do I need to get a training? Do I need to get certifications? Somebody will say there are different strategies to catch a monkey. There are different strategies to catch a grass cutter for some of us from Africa. So there is no one size fits all. The end point is your goal, your vision, and how you want to get there. So today you might be doing a course in project management, or you might even be doing something in sales, and you desire to transition to project management. You're still on the right path. It's all about having the vision and creating a roadmap on how you want to get to where you're going to. I hope that puts
Yeah,
some light. Yeah.
of course. Thank you so much, Igichi. Because thinking about it, projects, we humans, we carry out projects in almost all areas of our lives. When you have a party to plan, when you have maybe a service to plan in church or anywhere, you have to like plan it and make sure it's executed well. So that's also project management. But I want to ask, we are talking about transitioning in 4 months. Don't you think it's a short time, or do you think someone can really transition in 4 months? And what are the core skills you think someone can pick in 4 months?
Yeah, that's a very good question and very good concern most people have. You see so many training providers. They market and sell or do email shots of, hey, get into this field in 4 months, and you would be able to land a role in project management as a PMO professional, program manager, and all of those stuffs. Now, we all know that Rome was not built in a day, but Rome started with a pillar or a piece of rock or a piece of stone that was laid, or a foundation, that was laid so that other structures can then stand on it, what we call superstructures. And that is the vision that we bring to the table. If you're in the journey of transitioning to the role of project management, and you hear, like you see mentor partners will tell you transition in 4 months, we're not telling you that you will gain 10 years experience in 4 months. But what we are promising you at Mentor Partners is that we would help you build the foundational skills, competencies, exposure, and the mindset that you need to transition to become effective in project management. Now, the biggest challenge in transitioning, I would always say, is your mindset. I think it was Zanzu, or I don't know what they call him. He said that the greatest battle to win is a battle against yourself, to conquer yourself. Once your mind tells you that I want to take up this journey, I want to tour this path, what do I need to do? That first realization is what you need to pivot you to the next stage. The 4 months of transitioning is the baseline, is the foundation, is the mindset shift, is the exposure that you need to help you pivot to the next phase. So when you hear 4 months, or when you see mentor partners tell you 4 months to transition, is that 4 months of exposure, the 4 months of training, the 4 months of mindset shift, the 4 months of getting your hands dirty, on how to deliver a project. And how do you achieve that? That 4 months would include not just classroom work, it would also include helping you look inward to tell yourself, what are the things I have done in the past? What are those skills that I have done in the past that I can transition into my new found career path of project management? Because like you said, Precious, that before now, we are natural project managers. We have delivered projects. Our life alone is all about project management. We plan our money, our salary is planned. We plan how many children we want to have. We plan how much we want to spend in our marriage. We plan on how to save for a car. We plan on the kind of house we want to build. All of those things, even up to cooking. We plan on what we want to cook, how we want to cook the meal, the things we need for that meal. All of those things are all project mindsets. So as part of the 4 months, we tell you to look inward, to call out some of the things you've done in the past, some of the skills of project management that you've used in the past, but you don't know their project skills. We'll help you fine-tune those. We'll call them out, projectize what you've done in the past. That's a key word. We'll projectize what you've done in the past, and then transition all of that to your new career path of project management. So that is what part of the things that the 4 months entail, to help you change your mindset, rebuild what you've done in the past, and help you visualize yourself in the space of a project manager. Remember, there's what they call imposter syndrome. That can also hold you back, but we're helping you to overcome all of that. But before I hand back to you, there's something I also want to call out, is the fact, or the part of mentorship, where mentorship comes in. You could desire to become a project manager, and it will take you 10 years to become competent, to become confident in selling yourself as a project manager. But when you walk on the path that has been told by a mentor who has gone through that path, all you're doing is leveraging his experience, you leverage his exposure, you leverage what he has done in the past. So that 10 years that he or she has experienced working with other companies, you're able to learn the nitty-gritty and nuances of project management from him. And you've gained the knowledge of 10 years in 4, 5, 6 months. So that when you get your own job as a project manager, you're now counting on the experience of someone who had gone through that past. And those pitfalls or the errors or mistakes he or she has made in the past, you're not going to make them, because you're being held and guided. So that's the value of mentorship. It's not just training, it's also mentorship that helps you go through the phase to where you're heading to. Okay.
Wow. Thank you, Igechi, for that.
Yeah.
He said a lot of things, but the few I picked out was mindset shift. That's very important. So in mentors partners, there's something we call the gap analysis. So when you come in, like you're going to have this mindset shift at the beginning. And he also talked about mentorship. Sometimes some people say experience is the best teacher, but I don't think that's a good saying, because in mentorship you learn from other people's experience and you don't have to make the mistake they made. You leverage on their mistakes, you leverage on their knowledge and expertise, as he said. But I want to ask you another question before I move to Chidi. What are the misconceptions? What are the myths that we have in management? Some people have this mindset of what project management is, and we know it is not what it is. So can you just tell us a few, and if you could also tell us what the truth is when you tell us the myth, so that we'll all be balanced.
Yeah, that is very correct. There's so many things surrounding project management. And now when you also look at it from the angle of the rise of remote work, the rise of the whole Japa syndrome. For those who don't understand, Japa means migration, the sudden increase in migration from Nigeria to various countries. People want to migrate, and the next thing they're being told, get into project management. It's an easy field. Get into fields like business analysis or Scrum Master. The worst is even Scrum Master. They tell you it's so easy. Just drive daily stand up, and that is all you need to do. So all those things are misconceptions. The work out there is quite large. I wouldn't kid you. I wouldn't lie to you. The work of a project manager is very, very critical. I would even say it's risky, because if you're a customer-facing project, now there are two types of projects. You have customer-facing project. Some projects are internal to your organization, where you're doing it for a sister department. But if you're doing a project for an external customer, a customer that has paid money to your company to deliver a project, that brings in a measure of risk to the PM to track. In our climate like Nigeria, where we come from, you will hear keywords like PO, purchase order, contract, all those things. Those are two companies getting together to deliver a project. One is the executing company, and the other one is the owner of the project. So you hear stories like, oh, the PM just holds meetings and all that. The role of a project manager is very critical. It is very, very important, because you are the link between organizations. You're the link between the team members that are helping to deliver the project, as well as those who need to use the output of the project, the product of the project. So if you're decided to come into this space, you need to tell yourself one thing, that, hey, look, I am ready to take arrows. When I mean arrows or darts, it means that if the team is succeeding, the team gets the celebration. If the team is not succeeding, the project is failing, you get the arrow. Even if you're aware that the mistake or the miss or the issue may have been done by a developer, a QA resource, or somebody in the team, you wouldn't go down there to pull that person and say, no, it's not my fault, it's this guy's fault. We know where the fault is coming from, but you, the PM, you take the end responsibility. Now, we also hear stories like, oh, it pays well, it gives you fulfillment, and all of those things. Those are great words, but they can also be deceiving, because there are days that you're not excited. Everything you've done, everything you've planned is not going according to what you've forecasted. Sometimes your stakeholders become very difficult. Sometimes you want to throw your hands in the air and say, man, what the hell is going on here? I'm out of this place. Sometimes your stakeholders become very, very difficult. For me, that used to be a head of PMO before I transitioned to Scrum Master. It's even worse. You're working with project managers from various departments. You're trying to handhold them, and they're just doing what they like. Sometimes they start a project, they won't inform the PMO, and leadership start coming to ask the PMO department, where are we on this project? Why are we falling behind? You're like, I'm not even aware of that project. So how do I defend that case? So you now start doing catch up, But regardless of what happens day to day, regardless of the challenges or the misconceptions and all that, I think it brings us back to what I said before, the mindset. Once you put it out there that this is the journey I want to take, this is the path I want to tow. I am ready for the highs, I'm ready for the lows. Whatever comes out of it, I'm ready to take it, I'm ready to learn, and I'm ready to grow from that. It will give you peace of mind. You will see everything as a learning point. And that is why, before I hand over to Chidis, apologies. And that is why we do two critical things as project managers or scrum masters. The first one is lesson learned in your project lifecycle. Spend time to track, spend time to review or look back and say, hey, what have I learned so far? This is not just for the project, but you personally. What have I learned from my journey in delivering this project? What have I learned? What are the issues that I encountered? What are the environment of difficulties from stakeholders that affected me in this project? And if you're also in the agile space, spend time on retrospectives. Retrospectives are not a waste of time. It's a good tool for continuous improvement. When you're meeting your team, to ask yourself, what did we enjoy in the last sprint? What can we learn in the future sprint or sprints to come? So lesson learned, retrospectives are very good tools. When you go for your interviews as PMs, you're not going to be asked questions like what is project management or what is a schedule. They want to know the difficult situations you've managed. What are your worst projects? What are the biggest issues you've experienced in your project? How did you manage them? It is those lessons learned. It is those retrospectives. It is those your personal look back that would give you stories to speak to in your interviews. Okay, so just to reiterate again, mindset. The mindset tells you that, hey, I'm a PM, I'm a Scrum Master, I'm a PMO professional. Whatever is happening now is an opportunity to learn and to grow. So have that at the back of your mind, so that when you start seeing those challenges, when you start seeing the pushback from your team members, you understand that it is part of the journey as a PM, a Scrum Master, a PMO professional, whatever field you desire to go into.
Just to be clear, Ikechi, does it mean that as a newbie, let's say I want to transition into project management, I don't necessarily need a formal education, or do I just need the practical aspect? Can you just clarify that aspect for us?
Okay, if I got you correctly, that is if we need formal education for project management to transition, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah, so it's two things I would say. I would say it's both ways. Now, the first way is this: the world is changing. You may not need formal education to become a project manager. You may be fortunate to find yourself in your own personal business or your family business, and you're given the opportunity. Maybe you studied something else and you're thrown into that space. But if you're like some other people who are looking at moving to a new location, who are not fortunate enough to have their own personal business, or their family haven't got a massive business to leverage on, that you're going out to compete with professionals, people who have certificates, people who have worked the path of project management. They have so many projects under their belt. Remember those days when we watch wrestling, you see a world champion with his belt lying on his shoulder. It shows that, man, this guy has fought some bad guys and he's going to where he has the belt now. So if you're that type that you need to fight, you need to battle, prove your worth, you need to showcase your skills, what you've done in the past, then I think it won't hurt to get the right certification and the right qualification so that you have a footing at the door. But one thing you should realize is this: you don't even need a certificate or a degree in project management to become a project manager. You don't need that at all. All you need is that desire to move into that space, that training, that exposure in mentorship, that skill set that can help you move into that space. I studied economics in my first degree, international business in my second degree. But if I tell you that I've done projects that had to do with structural build, I've done projects that are very high risk, building telecom towers. I've done pipeline, flow line projects. I've done projects on recruitment and talent resourcing. I've done projects on mobile app application. Currently doing another project on restaurant mobile app application. It's all about that exposure I've had and being able to transition my knowledge from industry to industry. But for a newbie, a new hand on deck who wants to come in, that may be challenging. My story may not apply to yours. And that is where mentorship comes in. That is where training, initial training comes in. So you may have like electrical certification, but you're going into project management. What are the gaps that I need to bridge to help me get there? Mentorship can help you bridge that gap. That is where we mentor partners can come in to say, okay, what are your career goals? How can we be of value? Where do you see yourself in the next 2 years, 3 years? What are the skills or the certifications you need to be there by that time so that you're able to prove your worth and also sell yourself when you go for interviews? To conclude, I also like to say that recently I had a meeting with a lady who wants to relocate to Canada, and she said something that really struck me. She's a project manager with there's a tech company that was into trucking. It's called Kobo something. Kobo, I can't remember. She used to work with them as a project manager. So she said that she wants to come to Canada, and someone in Canada told her not to bother about doing PNP. That PNP is like pure water. Everyone has PNP and all that. That is a waste of time. My advice to her was this: look, everyone may have PNP. That tells you one thing: PNP has become a baseline. So why do you want to throw yourself out of the pocket, by not having PNP and going to compete with people that have PNP? And some have more experience than you. Some don't even have much experience, but they have PNP. And when they're qualifying everyone, they say PNP is the baseline. You don't have PNP. You've already removed yourself from the competition. So whatever certification you can get to help you bridge that gap, I would advise you do it, you get it, so you can compete with those that are ahead at the same level and those that are even coming from the back.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ikechi. Like, you're doing amazingly well. I'm learning so much
Thank you.
already. We have a question in the chat box from Ajeli. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name well. He says, what are the fundamental skills one must have as a basics to excel in project management? So if you're talking to, let's say, a newbie, what are the skills the person should pick up? And if you're also talking to maybe a pro, it's just like the lady you just talked about that is transitioning also maybe in another location, what skills can they pick up?
Okay, so yeah, that's a very good question, and it's a very common one because everyone that question also relates to a very classic question: tools. What tools do we need for project management? If you've been following some of the trend on questions, people always ask about tools that I need to deliver projects as a project manager, and also the skills. Now, let's take some steps back. Remember, in the beginning, we talked about all of us being natural project managers. In whatever field we are, we have natural project managers. There are countless skills that we need that can help us in project management. There are thousands of them, thousands, but I think a few of them can really stand out, and those few I want to mention are natural skills that all of us on this call already have. First one, communication. Communication, the good old communication. Even in the Bible, God said, let us make man in our image. He's speaking to the triune, say, hey guys, we're making man in our own image. God said, let there be light, and there was light. So even God is speaking, just commanding things, and it's happening. It's like the Jewish word abracadabra. I create what I speak. We used to make fun of that, but it's very strong. I create what I speak. Communication is a very, very important skill to have in project management. But there's a catch. When I mean communication, I'm not saying talking, because that can be also a misconception. I say we're just talking. No, in project management, there are various ways we communicate. We communicate using a risk register. We communicate using a schedule. We communicate by developing status reports. Even in the midst of creating status reports, we also try to break that status report to our communication audience. When we're speaking to sponsors, there's a way we communicate with them. When we're speaking to the team, there's a way we communicate to them. When we're speaking to stakeholders that are impacted by my project, but I haven't brought them or I haven't captured their requirement, there's a way we speak to them. So communication has various types of comes in various colors, variations. The next one is planning. A very important skill PM should have is planning. And this is a natural skill that we all have. We all have that. Hey, I want to have in my marriage in 1 year. I'm planning 1 year down the road. How much do I need to start setting aside? What have I talked about? I've mentioned planning. I've brought in budgeting. That's another skill for PMs to have, budgeting. Not all projects have that budget impact where you need to track budget. Some don't, but it's a good skill PM should have. I would encompass the budgeting under or within planning. So planning is very good because naturally we plan to write certification exams. So we start asking ourselves, which of the certification exam? What training should I get beforehand? We plan to do things like we travel abroad. How much will my flight cost? Which flight will I take? We plan to cook, like we mentioned before. What will I cook? How will I cook? What would the presentation look like? So that's a very, very important skill. And the last one I would like to say is leadership and managing people. Why do I mention this skill? It's because when you understand that as project managers, there's a quote from a man called Charles Jenkins. He said, project managers are simply stakeholder managers. Project managers are simply stakeholder managers. How are they stakeholder managers? You're managing the team, you're managing the sponsor, you're managing your budget, you're managing your time, or what we call schedule, you're managing the vision of the project, you're managing everything around you is being managed. Vendors need to be taken care of, they need to be managed. Milestones need to be managed. So managing people, stakeholders, communication and planning, I think are very excellent skills that all PMs should have, all Scrum Masters should have. And when you look at your history as a human being, as a professional, in whatever field, you will notice that you have used these skills. These skills can easily be projectized from what you've done in the past to showcase your qualities and competencies as a project manager. And it's part of the things we call out during career road mapping meeting we usually hold with those who want to train with us at Mentor Partners. We help you understand that some of the things you've done in the past are valuable skills that you don't need to throw away. You can simply refine, projectize them, and use them to your value. Before I hand back to you quickly, you also see people making that mistake. They're going abroad, for instance. They dump everything they've done in the past and build a fresh profile and start competing with those that have gone ahead, those that are already experienced. You don't need to do all that. It's all about projectizing what you've done in the past and helping you communicate that which you've done, calling out those special skills that are required in project management to help you sell yourself and gain what you want. Okay?
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Ikechi, for the skills. When we talk about the tools, can you just mention a few tools that you think is very important for a project manager? Hi, Chidi.
Hey, Chidi, what's up? Welcome.
Hey, hi everyone.
Okay, yeah, for tools, that is also similar to the skills. There are countless. There's a bank of tools that you can use in the career or field of project management. I remember some years back, I was talking to someone who is very close to me, and then I was transitioning, and he was trying to tell me that, hey, I'm already doing projects. Like when he said he's going for interviews for project management, and he was blasting them, but he wasn't getting offers. And I asked him that, okay, so what is the challenge coming from? And he said that whenever they ask him questions like, what tools have you used, or what tools do you use to manage your project, he just says schedule. And that's a classic response, schedule, But in project management, there are countless tools, AI has even made it easier for us to use various tools now. Now we have AI meeting support tools like Otter and the likes of them. That's a project management tool, to help you summarize a meeting, summarize action points, and cascade to stakeholders. But that aside, some of the tools that I've used in the past, I will speak personally for myself. Some of the tools that I've used in the past in managing my project are the classic ones. The schedule is there, the RAID log, which is simply risk, issues, actions, dependencies. RAID log is a very fantastic tool to use for project management. Risk is to capture uh, issues that may happen or events that may impact our project negatively particularly, so we can plan mitigations for them. Issues are those that are already happened and we're trying to resolve them. Dependencies, actions, who's supposed to do what. RAID log is a very excellent tool that I've used. When we go to the AI tools, I've used ClickUp. ClickUp is very good. Why I like ClickUp, and I think anyone thinking of transitioning to project management should research on ClickUp. Why? Is because ClickUp has easy to use interface. Even the free version of ClickUp is so rich that it can help you learn some of the key tools you might need when you take your transition role or when you move into an IT project environment. Another tool I've used, Trello. Currently, I use more of Jira and Confluence. I so love Confluence now. Confluence is like SharePoint. It's like your database on your laptop. I so love it. It's very easy to integrate. Easy because I've used it several times. So Jira is also good. Jira has features like ClickUp to a very large extent. On the PMO side, I've used some tools that help you manage a couple of projects, like program scheduling, Gantt, what we call Gantt of Gantts. Gantt chart, but now Gantt of Gantts. This one is a model Gantt of all the Gantts for each project you're tracking in your program. And yeah, I think Outlook is another one. Then the classic tools like Lucid Chat, Vengage to design reports, and a couple of others. The tools are too numerous to mention. I wouldn't advise anybody transitioning to know thousands. If you know 2 or 3, it's good. Know them very well. You can speak to it at an interview and sell yourself with those ones. Before I hand over to Chidi, when I went for one of my interviews, I was asked the question that, what tools have I used in the past? I mentioned ClickUp because ClickUp was what I've used very well, ClickUp and Trello. And they said, hey, in our environment, we use Jira and Confluence. And I said, oh, cool. ClickUp has features that you can liken to Jira. It has that Kanban board, it has scheduling, it has a resource view, it has various views, So I told him that, look, if I join your company, to learn your tools wouldn't be a difficult process for me because I've used ClickUp that is similar to yours. It's a case of transitioning what I've done. And it's the same thing when you gain your, when you're transitioning, maybe you've gotten your first role and you're seeking to move to the next role as a project manager, they know that you wouldn't know everything in their environment. You wouldn't have domain experience on everything, but you can leverage what you've done in the past, to say, hey, I've managed stakeholders, I can manage stakeholders in your environment. I've managed budget, I can manage budget in your environment. I've managed people, team members, I've motivated my team, I've managed risk and issues, I can do it in your environment. So it's about relating what you've done in the past to what you can do in the next role or when you offer your first role as a project manager. I hope that helps.
Yes, of course. You even said so much than what I even expected. Thank you so much, Igechi. I'll be moving to Chidi now so that Igechi can take a break. If you have your questions, please drop them in the chat space and we'll attend to it. But Chidi, I want to ask you, in this real life project management journey you are in, what are your real life challenges? So if I want to transition into project management, what are the challenges I think can come and how have you been able to tackle them? Sometimes we read some things in books, but we might not understand how it is in real life. So now we're talking to real humans. So I think they will explain and they will express themselves even better for us to understand how these challenges came and how they overcame it.
Okay, so thanks, Precious. So for real life issues. So first of all, what I want to say is this, right? People think because you have certification, whether it's Agile, Scrum, PMP, or Prince 2, because you have read, for example, let's use PMP as a case study, because you've passed it, you know, the book of knowledge and all that, whatever you have seen theoretically, where you know theoretically is what it is that you can use to deal with real life situations. I just want to let everybody know that that is the opposite, because I can tell you for a fact that 60% of what you read in your what's it called, what you read in your in your PMP or Prince 2, you would not use it in real life. So it's basically, I think it's more or less about people management, because you are managing people and you're communicating to people in project management. So in project management, you do like over 90% communication. So one of the major issues you will always, or I have always experienced, is managing human beings, right? You have people from different walks of life. I'm on a project that has been on for the past 3 years. I will tell you for a fact that while that project is very difficult to manage because of the people we are managing, right? These guys are the delivery team are in Pakistan. That's number one. Number two, they are 4 hours ahead of us. So it means that if you want to get people, most of the time, you want to get them to do something, especially if you have a plan, you have to wake up as early as possible. So imagine if they are 4 hours ahead of you, they are 8 o'clock, which is when they're supposed to start their work, is your 4 a.m. So you have to be, I find myself being out, trying to get myself awake as soon as possible to chase people, because if I am thinking they will get a lot of things done by the time I wake up by 8, which will be there at 12 p.m., it definitely is not going to be the case. So the major issue, especially when it comes to project management, I heard when Ngechi said, is being head of PMO. At the end of the day, you're managing people, right? If you're a project manager, you're managing the delivery team. So one of the issues you will face, one of the issues I face the most, is managing people. So getting them to do what it is that they've communicated that they're going to do, because mind you, when it comes to the project plan, it's the team members or delivery managers or delivery team that communicate exactly what it is that they will do, that you document in your plan. So you will find yourself in a situation where you're chasing people to do the work they have committed to do. So it is always like that. I think that's like the major issue. So, and when you have a vision, such an issue, you have to now start having, definitely it's part of your risk. So you start making sure you have a mitigation plans to mitigate such an issue. Yes, such an issue, right? Because which to use is a risk before it becomes an issue. You tend to try as much as possible to implement a mitigation plan. So I think for me, that is like the major issue I have, or major roadblocks in my project, right? Managing people is actually a very big deal. That is, in short, to summarize your work as a project manager. You as a project manager, you are the project management career is in existence for you to get people to do their job. People think it's easy, but I saw what's it called, a tweet on X, or formerly Twitter, where somebody was trying to say he doesn't understand why project manager exists, that he doesn't understand why they have to pay people to chase people to do their job. And people were telling him that is actually very, very hard to do. To chase people to do their job is literally what you do as a project manager. So it's not as easy, because the same people that is actually on your project are actually on another project. So if you don't know how to try to get them to commit to your own project to get things done, your project is going to be in a serious issue. So I think people management is like the major issue I do encounter on my projects.
Okay, thank you, Chidi. So, for instance, let's say there's this very difficult employee that you're working with. How did you tackle it? Let's say he said he would do this, he would do XYZ by 12 p.m. And because of him, the project is lingering. What did you do in that scenario?
Okay, so the thing is, which is why when it comes to project management, when it comes to governance, which is why in Scrum you have what you call your daily stand-up. So, and I realize the importance of daily stand-up. It's very hard to have team members that are working on activities or tasks they've committed to. It's very hard for them to see every day in a meeting and not do the job, right? So you meet every day, you ask about the work they've committed to do in a certain period of time. And definitely, even if they don't do it in the first 2 days, there is no way they see your face every day as a project manager or the scrum master. And if the person is actually a very competent person, the person will definitely get it done. Now, there are situations where the so-called team member could be unmotivated or could have like one or two personal issues going. Everybody have their own personal issues that they have to tackle. It could be relationship-wise, it could be family-wise. So you need to also have that emotional intelligence to identify when a team member is not at their best, right? So you tend to know because in what's it called in agile school is what you call Igechi, I think you will help me here, what you call burn down chart and burn up chart. You tend to see how over time how people work, the velocity of of how they close things. So if you know when a certain team member that has always been on when it comes to the velocity of how he's closing a certain how he closes his or activities has changed based on the data you have seen, you know that something is wrong. So you can use that. Or sometimes project management, you need to use data to actually, manage what it is you're doing. So once you notice that the team member that has been delivering in a certain manner is not more delivering in a certain manner, you tend to know that something might be wrong. So you tend to have that one-on-one, touch up with them to understand what's going on if everything is fine. So that's where emotional intelligence comes in, especially when it comes to managing your team.
Okay, thank you so much, Chidi. You did justice to the question. Please
Yeah.
let's not forget to check in the chat space. We have links to our social media platforms, and also when you go to our website, we have a free consultation where you can get further clarity in case you feel okay, you're not so clear here. And if you have questions, please don't forget to drop them in the chat space, or you can just signify by raising your hand, and I would call you up. I want to ask another real life question to you, Chidi.
Yeah.
So, how do you prioritize your projects? You said something like sometimes you might be doing a project and another project is actually running. And most
Mhm.
of the time, the team members you have in project A are the same team members that you might have in project B. So, how do you prioritize completing the projects depending on their deadlines?
Okay. So first of all, when it comes to projects or the project you give priority, sometimes it comes from the management, right? So I've worked in an organization where they can give you as a project manager based on your capacity some critical projects to manage. They can't give it to anybody or any project manager. So they tend to look at people's capabilities and being that account, in account money they call it account. Being that account, it's a very big one, or there is a customer that they just got and they may want to make sure the customer has a good service delivery experience. They tend to give certain project managers that have capability that shown that they are good project managers that kind of projects on it. So when it comes to priority, sometimes the business prioritizes the project you manage. Now, when you now have list of projects that you are managing, and you need to know the time you allocate to different projects, because that also happens. You might have 5, and in a week you have 40 hours. In a day you have 8 hours. You need to know how many hours you allocate to each project based on their priority. Back when I was being trained, there's what they call man hours and effort. So now, based on the caliber of the project and based on man hours your project team has communicated that they would put into the project, it helps me now calculate my own man hours. Okay, if I have 5 projects, based on the complexity and based on so many factors like the priority from the business of this project, I know that. And sometimes I think what I also do is I look at the value of PO, because different projects have a different purchase order value. A project that is valued at $1.5 million, and a project that is valued at $100,000 project cannot get the same number of time. I will give the $1.5 million project. So what I actually do is I look at the PO value, which is like my major factor into knowing how to calculate my hours or my efforts I will give all my projects. So That's basically how I do my own priority. So when I see the value of the POs of the project, I know the complexity. I can now calculate, okay, for my 8 day, for my daily working hours of eight hours a week, I know that I will give the project that has the highest PO value 3 hours, then I can now split the remaining 5 hours across other projects. So it means that things like have deliverables like developing a project plan and developing whatever different documents. I know that I have a 3 hour slot for project A and I have a 1 hour slot for project B based on their PO value.
Okay.
Just to add to that as well,
Yeah.
as a PM, I think one thing you should just be aware is that as you grow in your career, you will be thrown into the exposure of working on more than one project. And in fact, that was a question that also came in one of my interviews. They say, hey, what's your capacity? How many projects can you manage at a time? They want to see that if I give you 3-4 projects, you will not drown, your knees will not buckle, and you will not mess things up. You won't be communicating the status of one project to another project. So there, from a PMO background, Chidi have mentioned that slightly. Prioritizing the project comes from leadership. Leadership will have their prioritization method to say, hey, this is priority projects for this period. So focus your energy on that, on those projects. You could also find those prioritization come by, like Chidi said, complexity, budget value, stakeholder impact. A 100K project may be small, but the owner of the project may have so much influence that you're even prioritizing it at the same level with a $1.5 million project. Regardless of your prioritization method, simply understand, like as a newbie coming into this field, understand what to do when you find yourself in that space. You could use a simple metrics like must have, should have, could have, would have. Priority projects, complexity, budget value, simply tells you they are a must. So every week, and let me dedicate most part of my time for those must ones. These ones are time critical. Those kind of projects, you could use agile mindset or agile tools like daily stand up, like Chidi rightly mentioned. You will notice that those projects you meet almost every day. Every day. I did a project one time where we submitted daily work report with pictures. It was a construction project with pictures on a daily basis. It was mission critical. Every day we must submit how much work done with pictures. And on Friday, we will then do the weekly status report that will show what has been done on the building, on the welding, on business readiness, and all that. So you will see that lots of things come in when it comes to prioritizing projects. As you grow as a project manager, more projects will be thrown your way. And you would then need to start understanding how to prioritize your work. At the time, I was managing 3 Scrum teams. Now I'm managing 2, and the 2 are different product families. So I need to prioritize to know what is happening. That is including even planning quarterly programs, look ahead programs for next quarter, all of that inclusive. So it's a case of understanding what is priority now, what is priority later, what can I do now, what should I do later, what can I defer or allocate to someone else to do, or what should I do? So always have that moving target so that you can align with what your stakeholders expect. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Igechi. Someone asked a question, and I think it's directed to Chidi. He said, what about scenarios when you don't see every day, probably remote work? So I think the person is trying to ask, let's say you don't have daily stand-ups, how do you handle it? That's possible.
Your daily stand-ups can be done remotely, right? You have meetings shouldn't only be face-to-face, right? Daily stand-ups can be done. If your team is on site, fine, you do your meetings face-to-face, one-on-one. But if your team is scattered around the world, definitely you guys need to find a time that works for everybody. But the point is, the meeting can be done virtually, and it's something. Well, after COVID, it's given that people can work remotely, so that's virtual meeting is not actually an issue nowadays again.
I think what he or she is trying to say also is we've talked about, even Chida mentioned it, that his biggest challenge is working with people. And that is just the fact. When you work in IT project, one of the biggest challenges you will notice is developers don't want to meet you every day. They don't want to see your face. They just want to do their work and go to bed, But you, the PM, you, the Scrum Master, you know the value that stakeholders expect from you. So what I usually do for my projects, if I join a new project team, or I'm starting afresh with them, I hold one-on-one session with everybody, the key players. If it's a small development team, I try to do it one-on-one with everybody. If it's too large, I do it with the key leads. And what is that supposed to do? I try to bring a human face to our engagement, and then I try to also do some level setting meeting to say, hey guys, this is how we'll be communicating in our project going forward. We will hold daily stand-up that is just 15 minutes every day or every other day during this project. Why are we doing it? What's the benefit? So that I can help you. So that if you're blocked, I can support you. The message is, I'm not doing it for myself because I love daily stand-up. I'm doing it for you. I want to help you. I want to be able to provide you help when you're blocked. I want to be able to see things, take charge before they become crisis. So you would hear people resisting. I don't want to meet. I don't want to do that. But leadership quality tells you that if the project fails, you, the PM, goes down. So understand how you're going to sell the idea of meeting. Currently, my development team, we used to meet. Canada, there are so many time zones. So I have development team in Vancouver, BC, British Columbia. Daily stand-up is in the afternoon because we have a very short space of window to work with them. By the time they are starting their work fully, most of us in Eastern time zone, Mountain time zone, we're already shutting down. So we have daily stand-up in the afternoon. So we make it very short, very, very short, so that nobody complains, nobody pushes back, So you would hear resistance, you will see all those kind of resisting tendencies, But understand, as a PM, your job is to get everyone to align to the vision. And that vision does not need to fail. So selling yourself to them through just a one-on-one call, say, guys, I'm just reaching out to know how you're doing. I understand that we're going to be seeing each other in delivering this project. So I want to know how to work with you, the best way to communicate with you. However, we're drawing up a team charter. This team charter is just to help us communicate well, how to work together, the time we're meeting on a daily basis. We're going to be having daily stand-up. So we want a time that suits everybody. I'll propose a couple of hours or a couple of time zones. So please pick whichever one that you like, and then we'll see how we can make it work together. Immediately the person starts seeing you as a helper, as a supporter, and then when it's time for those stand-up, try to keep it, time box it to that time. Any discussion that is not part of it, push you to meet after. They are not involved. Take it to that person separately so that everyone jumps into that daily stand-up, discusses their progress, discusses their issues, and gives you visibility to do your report for management and leadership. So I just thought I'd include that so it adds more context.
That's very important. Thank you so much, Igichi. You really emphasized on leadership and communication, because the way you pass the information across also matters. And as you said, some people would not want to, but when you pass it out in a juicy way that you are here to help them, it makes everybody get involved. We have one question here, and it says, you talked about prioritizing projects based on costs. This might be an internal decision, but the customer doesn't know or care if you have other contracts, but want to be treated the same. How do you manage that? I think it's Chidi that talked about that, but Ikechi, if you want to, you can.
Yeah, Chidi can go first. It's all right.
Okay, so the thing is, customer wouldn't know. Customers business is just, we're giving you guys a job to deliver. You guys should deliver, right? So it's not they don't have any how you want to manage your own time as a project manager is up to you. So the thing is, like I said, the project you have, when you have done your analysis, you tend to know exactly, okay, what project will have more of your time. The most important thing is to make sure that the necessary things that needs to be done on a project on a daily basis. I've been on projects where all your constraints, your monitoring and controlling, literally 60% of the constraints would actually go left, right? At the end of the day, what I realized customer will want to see at the end of the project is that the deliverables that they have asked you guys to deliver, it's delivered as per expectation and as per quality. And I like using this analogy. Imagine if you place an order for a car in America. You placed it maybe via a what's it called, a shipping line, maybe Myers or MSC, and they tell you that okay, this vehicle is supposed to take 4 months to get to Nigeria or 4 months to get to Canada, but for some reason, every 2 weeks or towards the time where the car was supposed to get to Nigeria, they now kept updating you and telling you that the timeline has changed. They can change the timeline for like 5 times, meaning that the car you were supposed to expect in 4 weeks, eventually now you now realize the car is going to get to you in another extra 4 weeks, meaning altogether 8 weeks. Now, at that point, as a customer, your worry is no more the time. Your worry, your own, what it is you're expecting is as at the time the car is going to get to you, let the car that you placed order for, the way you saw that car online and everything you saw, the pictures, you want that car to get to you the same way you're expecting it, or the same way you expect, or the same way you have seen online. So that is what, one of the principles of Project of Scrum is having a working software. Amongst everything that could go wrong in your project, at the end of the day, make sure as a project manager or the agile project manager, you deliver a working software for the customer. So that is like, if everything should go wrong in your project, that should be your major focus. So for me, when I'm managing projects, regardless of how things go, whether things don't go according to plan, at the end of the day, the goal for me is to make sure that even if the time I communicated to the project, to the customer, the time they were supposed to deliver the product, even if we don't deliver the product at that time, whatever it is that they have, the expectation of what it is that they told us to deliver, we deliver it by expectation and they meet their needs. So that is how, those kind of scenarios are being managed. Gage, I don't know if you have any contribution.
Please, I just want you to clarify. Does it mean like because maybe this particular client is not paying enough money, you just
No.
just
All clients are important, right? The whole thing is you need to know how you allocate your time per client. One project shouldn't suffer, and from another project because the PO value or the project was not priority. No, the point is some complex and priority project will have more of your time than another project. But at the end of the day, the goal is by the end of the project, whatever the customer has paid the company to deliver was delivered as per the customer expectations. That's basically what it is. That's the whole conclusion of the matter. One project shouldn't suffer because one project has more pure value than the other projects.
Okay, when we talk about timelines, what's because from the example you gave, the shipping company actually would say they were not professional enough, even though they were giving updates. But if you say,
sorry, it's not as if they're not professional. Things happen.
yes,
COVID happened. COVID happened to literally all the companies. So many companies were professional, but COVID came and messed up everybody's timeline. So we couldn't do anything. We just had to accept the risk. So there are situations that could happen that something might have happened. Maybe you what's it called? You see what's happening in America. You press another America, and for some reason, the people that are working in the shipping line have to go to their country. What would the shipping line do? They have to look for a person that will come and work in. So things like that happen, and sometimes you just have to, take it as it is. So, but the goal is most of those companies will make sure that that resources or those things that you that you want to have.
It's 2015.
You would get that your particular to get your item or your deliverables that you asked that you've paid for. That's like the bottom line.
Okay. Thank you. You actually just clarified because I think that's majorly the question this person is asking. He just wanted to know if you treat all your clients the same as a project manager. And you just answered it now. Thank you very much, Chidi. I don't know, Igechi, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, so I wanted to include that together with making sure that the deliverable of the project is met. All customers want to feel valued, especially when the customer, in the beginning I talked about project sources. You have customer paying projects, client facing PMs and internal project you're doing for like a sister department in your company. So all projects owners want to feel valued. They want to feel appreciated. Even if they're paying you a dime, they don't care. It's their money that they are protecting. So they expect the same value or attention you pay to a big firm. They don't even care about big firms. They don't know about you. Like you rightly mentioned in the comment, they don't care about your internal processes. Just deliver my solution, But let me give an instance, and maybe this can help us for those who are thinking of moving into project management space. As a PM, you would be holding what we call cadence of meetings, frequency of meetings. You could be holding daily meetings, like we call the daily stand-up. You could be holding weekly status updates with your client. You could be holding bi-weekly meetings, monthly sponsor meetings, or any of that. So having that at the back of your mind, you could use that as a way to showcase how you prioritize the complexity of your project.
Exactly.
High value what project? You might be having meetings with your steering committee or your sponsors almost on a weekly basis because it's critical, it's mission critical. As a PM, you would be expected, I won't say I would say you would be expected to balance expectation. The project that may not be as mission critical or may not be as valuable as other ones that you're managing, you could even spread a meeting out by 2 weeks or monthly, so that before you get to that time, you've done some measure of work to report. Whilst those that are more critical based on value, based on cost or complexity, your meeting cadence might be more frequent. But this is where experience also comes in, understanding how much needs to be done per time. As a project manager, one of the things we always do, we talk about status report, but sometimes take a critical look at your status report. It has some components. What we've done now, what we're doing next. As a PM, you could use that mindset to say, okay, hey, for my priority projects, what are my deadlines? What have we done now? What are we doing next? What are those deadlines that must be met for these projects? How do I bring them closer so that I deliver value faster? Where are the risks on these high value projects? How do I mitigate them quickly? The other project that may not be as critical or may not be as valuable, but also is important because the customer is paying for them. You'd also ask yourself, okay, how much has been done? What are we doing now? What are we doing next? Can we differ it slightly? And whatever you're differing, make sure your customer is aware that these are the deliverables that will come at a certain time in the future, whilst you're busy delivering the expectations for the mission critical one. Everything is all about understanding and expectation management. When you're starting a project, you would always have like a project management plan. As part of the project management plan is your communication management. How we will be communicating during the life of this project. It is expected as best practice that as you're doing your project or the project management plan or the communication management plan, it is spelled out that this project will be meeting once a month to report to sponsor. Whilst in the mission critical one, it's expected that you've captured that we're meeting once a week so that we can deliver on time and we can manage risk effectively. Everything's about expectation management so that whoever is looking up to you is aligned and surprises are handled early and on time. Okay.
Thank you so much, Igechi. Thank you, Chidi. You have done justice to so many of our questions. And I believe that some of us still have questions, but maybe we are shy, we don't want to type or something. Please, we have our career mitigation, we have our career migration roadmap. So if you check in the chat space, you will see our website links, you will see our social media handles. Please, you just need to click, and you would, on our website, you see a slot for a free consultation. So the first stage is more like having a free consultation where you would talk to a professional and you can ask any question you want or the questions you have. Then we also have the career planning where we talk about the market analysis and your career roadmap planning. We also have in the next stage where you have to build capacity there. You'll be trained and you'll be mentored. You also have an internship in the process. So this internship is what would be more like your experience, because now you're transitioning from whatever field to project management. And here your mentors are going to hold you by the hand and teach you how to do these things. And we also have the 4 weeks before completion, where you have the pre-market analysis and the job market preparation, where you're prepared for interviews, you're prepared for questions. Like, Igechi already talked about it in the beginning, where you learn from people's experiences and you don't make the mistakes they've made. He talked about someone going for interviews and always talking about scheduling. So in this kind of scenario, you don't have to make such mistake because somebody has already taught you how to do these things. And we also have the 1 week before completion, where you'll be introduced into the alumni team and you'll be followed up with, depending on your location, information will be given to you depending on where you are. So we're not giving you just random information. We're giving you information meeting your direct needs due to location. So if you haven't checked the chat box, please check and just click. You're just a click away. And thank you everyone for joining us this week. On our website, you also see upcoming events. You could also join, you could like, you could share with your friends to get more clarity. Mentor Partners is our name, and we're always here and ready to help you. You can write us anytime, any day, and your questions will be addressed. So Chidi and Igechi, what are your last words before we go?
Okay. I think from me, I would say so. Project management is a lovely career. I also think that you should do project management for the right reasons. Don't do. I know that well. People want to change career. You want to have a better pay and all that, but I think you should do it for the right reason. Do it. Project management. They have communities. They have like bodies that put together certifications, the PMIs, and they are zealous as is for Prince 2. So I think, even if you want to go into it for the right reason, go into it to promote the profession. And I think if you want to do it, give it a shot. There is no, I started my career, I think I should be 7 years now, and I'm at the point where I should be getting a senior project manager role. And I think in the next 2 years, I should be aiming for my program management role. So a lot has happened. But all this journey started with a first step, right? Back then I think it was the same mentor partners that trained me years ago, but years ago it was not called mentor partners. It was called I think Learn Bigger, something else. But yes, it started off like that, and I would say it has been a good one, and we have trained so many people across, trained over. I think I'm one of the lead trainers, lead coaches. I've trained a lot of persons that have gotten jobs both international and locally. Most persons have gotten jobs in big companies, banks. Most of what I do, and the projects I do, are mostly for banks, including like even the Apex Bank of Nigeria, CBN, and the like. So it has taken. What I'm just saying is, studying project management has taken myself to different level, and I find myself across with connecting and networking with a lot of people across different sectors. So it's a good one. I will tell people. So my point is, go into it for the right reason and take the first step. It's not going to be easy, right? But I think mentor partners is always here to help people transition, and whatever it is that you encounter after you are done, your coaching and mentorship with us, we are always there also to help you and guide you, even on the job if you have one or two issues. So that's the one piece for myself.
Well, thank you so much, Chidi. He said something striking. He said even after the mentorship and the internship on the job, when you're stuck, there are still people to hold your hands and walk you through. That really got me. Igechi, please, can you give us your last words for the
Yes.
meeting today?
Yes. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has joined today to listen to us ramble and talk and talk and talk. We're like the champions for today. So, but we all are champions, basically. We All Are Champions. The fact that we're on this call tells us one thing, that there's the interest, there's the desire, there's the will, there's the zeal to understand how these guys did the journey. How did we transition? I am also a product of mentorship, so I do not discount the fact or the role that mentorship offers, hands-on mentorship. And this is what we offer mentor partners to help you, guide you through that journey. So do not assume that the journey is far away, or there are too many people on the path that you think there is no space for you to also transition. It's all about the decision, the personal will and zeal to take to embark on that trip. So we'll be looking forward to hearing from you. If you need to book a call to discuss, feel free. We'll be glad to discuss more. But just know one thing, that we all are products of mentorship, and it has been valuable to us. And once you decide that this is a journey you want to take, we're here to help you. We're here to support you. We're here to guide and provide as much context that would offer you the support that you need to transition. So I just want to say thank you once again for the time.
Thank you very much, Idichi. Temitope, you're asking if we are on Instagram or something. I think so. Yes, we are. We are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and you could also check our website. You could get all the details you need there. And I also want to point out something. If you're in Nigeria, if you're in any part of the world, there are people that can meet your specific needs. So, or if you're planning to maybe move to somewhere else and you feel, okay, this is a new space, I want to transition. There are people in Europe, there are people in Africa, there are people in US, Canada, and various other places that would bring the training to your, will I say, location, to the kind of environment you're in. So don't feel somebody in Nigeria is going to train you that is in UK and the person doesn't understand what the system is about. So when you join mentor partners, you would see that we have different mentors in different parts of the world, and they would teach you specifically for your environment, what would thrive in your environment. So it has been a nice time being your anchor this evening. My name is Precious again, and thank you all for joining in. Temitope, please just click on the website, and any question you have, just drop it there if you think we didn't answer all your questions, or click the link once again. It's going to work. It's working actually. So thank you everyone, and see you in our subsequent events. Bye.